So our regular talk around books, we are going to take a break today. And Ramadan Mubarak to everyone. Sheikh Binyamin will do a short qira'ah and then we'll start with the talk. And I had some requests to repeat Monday evening's nasihas, key advices on what to read in Ramadan, short to us from the ulama Makkah, it's passed down from Sheikh Stevens. So I'll share that with you with the chains of transmission for that as well. So we'll split the talk into the subtleties of knowledge and then you share some nasiha and advice for the month of Ramadan.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات. فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين. فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له. وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبين شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هديكم ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هديكم ولعلكم تشكرون وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعاني فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان علم الله أنكم كنتم تختانون أنفسكم فتاب عليكم وعفى عنكم فالآن باشروهن وابتغوا ما كتب الله لكم وكلوا واشربوا حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر ثم أتموا الصيام إلى الليل ولا تباشروهن وأنتم عاكفون في المساجد تلك حدود الله فلا تقربوها ولا تباشروهن وأنتم عاكفون في المساجد تلك حدود الله فلا تقربوها كذلك يبين الله آياته للناس لعلهم يتقون صدق الله العظيم. فاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا آمين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. We have a deen of fitrah, a natural disposition, the ancient, most ancient and purest way of living. For example, prescribed for us is wudu. For one of the most important reasons, and that is for Muslims and for human beings to reconnect with the simplest and most basic facts, and that is water. For example, Ghazali says in his Bidayah that when you wash your hands, when you just put your hands into water, then say Allahumma inni as'aluka al-yumna wal-baraka. Allah grant these hands blessing and grace, and protect these hands from destruction, from difficulty, problems and worries and all sorts of stuff. Just a basic connection with water. So I'm looking for my water here, but there's no water here today because I realized I'm fasting. So I'm trying to connect with the water myself. And water symbolizes so many things, but it symbolizes life. Ibn Arabi says it symbolizes divine knowledge. Because water is the life, is the reality. Because every living thing is made out of water. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We created every living thing from water. Everything that is alive is from water. So water is the life of reality. Prescribed for a Muslim is tayammum. What is tayammum? There's no water. We use dust to purify ourselves. Reconnecting us once again with earth. With the earth. And dust is symbolic of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. It metaphorically warns us about where we come from, where we came from. So in the absence of water, there is humility to connect us with where we came from. That dust, that connection, that humility. So Ibn Arabi says that if water is true knowledge of life, then in the absence of true knowledge, there must be taqleed. Taqleed, following expert. You're either an expert, and if you're not an expert, you then perform taqleed. So we are all muqallids, we follow the experts before imams. So he says that there must be taqleed, and therefore tayammum is taqleed and water is knowledge. So if you don't have knowledge, then connect to that humility that does and follow the experts, those of water, who give life to communities and society. This is traditionally what human beings and what they connected with. So as to understand what it means to be makhluk, the creation of it. And it is realized through connecting with some of the most obvious facts of nature. So Allah says in the Quran that He will strike us and remind us of His ayah within the horizons and within ourselves. To connect to that fitrah, because the revelation came at a time when things were fuzzy and there was darkness, so that they may and we may reconnect with that natural disposition. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is Surah 3 verse 19. It says, Inna fi khalqi samawati wal ard, indeed in the creation of the heavens and the earth, wa ikhtilafi al-layl wa an-nahar, and the alternations of the night and the day, there are ayat for the ulul albab, for those of deep insight, those who reflect, those who ponder, those who penetrate the barriers of the material. There are signs, there are ayat. It's symbolic for them, night and day. So once again, Imam Ghazali says that أول ما يجري على قلبك ولسانك ذكر الله. He says when you wake up in the morning to that daylight, when you wake up, then try to make the first thing that emanates from your tongue and your heart dhikrullah, remembrance of Allah. وَقُلْ عِنْدَ ذَلِكَ, and say then the first thing when you wake up, remove the dunya, the material from your mind when you wake up, and say Alhamdulillah, praise is due to Allah. Alladhi ahyan, who has granted me life this morning. Another opportunity to come to know His signs, and an opportunity to come closer to Him. Ba'da amatana, after He has given me this minor death, to reflect upon that again, awoken again. Wa ilayhi nushur, because that final gathering of that life after death is a reality that will be unto Him. And then he says, فَإِذَا لَبِسْتَ ثِيَابَكَ, when you then put your clothes on, فَنْوِ بِهِ الْإِمْتِثَالَ أَمْرِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى فِي سَتْرِ الْأَوْرَةِ, then make a niyyah. Oh Allah, I am putting on my clothes so that I may cover my awrah, because you have commanded me to cover my awrah. And your dressing becomes worship, ibadah. You change your dressing to worship, basic dressing. And he warns then afterwards, do not dress to show people, because then it will spoil that blessed dressing to please Allah. As for the excellence of knowledge from the Quran, I'll just mention one or two ayat. Allah says in the Quran, شَهِدَ اللَّهُ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ. Allah testifies and bears witness to His oneness. وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ, and so do the angels. وَأُولُو الْعِلْمِ قَائِمًا بِالْقِسْطِ. And so do those upright in knowledge. So Imam Ghazali says, فَانْظُرْ كَيْفَ بَدَأَ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى بِنَفْسِهِ. Look at how Allah started with Himself as testifying to His oneness. And then بِالْمَلَائِكَةِ, secondly by the angels. And thirdly بِأَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ, by the people of ilm. And he says, this is not a great sharaf or fadl, this is not a great honor and a virtue and a blessing to be mentioned alongside the angels and alongside Allah Ta'ala as a person of ilm who witnesses Allah's oneness. And then in other ayat, are those equal who have knowledge and who do not have knowledge? Rhetorically asking, or can they be equal? And then again, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. Those who truly fear Allah are those who have been endowed with knowledge. From the hadith, the al-Akhbar, it says, from the traditions, the Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا, for him whom Allah wishes good, intends goodness, يُفَقِّهِ فِي الدِّينِ, Allah will grant him a minute and detailed insight into the deen. Will grant him an insight into it. And He will grant him right guidance. And then again, Al-Ulama Warathatul Anbiya. The scholars are truly the inheritors of the prophets. And again, the Prophet said, لِمَوْتِ الْقَبِيلَةِ أَيْسَرُ مِنْ مَوْتِ الْعَالِمِ. That the destruction or death of an entire tribe is of less importance than the death of one true scholar. And the Prophet ﷺ said, people, mankind, they are like vessels of ores of dhahab wal fidda, gold and silver. They are like ores of gold and silver. فَخِيَارُهُمْ فِي الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ خِيَارُهُمْ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ إِذَا انْتَقَضُوا. The best of Muslims are those who are the best in Jahiliyyah, provided they have insight. Why? Because they know where they came from. They know that they had immense faults, and they know they were once in darkness. And this awareness grants a lifelong humility, because you know you are a person who can err and can falter. Arrogance is almost gone. And on top of this, you enter pure into Islam, without sin, but the goodness that you accumulated in the past still carries over. Therefore he says, don't ever insult a kafir, don't say you kafir. Because if he becomes Muslim tomorrow, he's sinless and he's still remaining with your sins. And again the Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ ازْدَادَ عِلْمًا وَلَمْ يَزْدَادَ هُدًى. Whomsoever increases in knowledge but does not increase in guidance, in huda, لَمْ يَزْدَادْ مِنَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا بُعْدًا. He has not increased except in distance from Allah. And he would make the dua that if I do not increase in knowledge today, then do not let the sun shine from me. As to beneficial knowledge, he says that ولكن ينبغي لك أن تعلم قبل كل شيء أن الهداية. That know that before anything else, know that guidance, hidayah, التي هي ثمرة العلم. That guidance is the fruit of knowledge. Why do we search for knowledge? It is to be guided. The Quran opens up Huda lil muttaqin. It's a Huda, it's a guidance. Not just a book that we read. It's a guidance, but to a specific group of people known as the muttaqin. People of taqwa who are conscious, who attempt that consciousness of Allah before they act. This will be a guidance for those people. التي هي ثمرة العلم. That the fruit of your pursuit for knowledge should be guidance. لها بداية ونهاية. But know one thing about knowledge, and that is that knowledge has a beginning and an end. وظاهر وباطن. It has an outward aspect and an inward essence. ولا وصول إلى نهايتها. And you will never attain to its end, to its limits, إلا بعد إحكام بدايتها, unless you start at the beginning. ولا عثور على باطنها. And you will never reach its inward essence إلا بعد الوقوف على ظاهرها, unless you master its outward aspects. As for the most beneficial thing you can do with your time, he says, the first thing, الأفضل is the best, أن تصرفه إلى طلب العلم النافع في الدين. It is to pursue beneficial knowledge in the deen. That's the best thing a person can do with his time. And then he says, وَالْعِلْمُ النَّافِعُ, to define beneficial knowledge, مَا يَزِيدُ فِي خَوْفِكَ مِنَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. It has a few points. Number one, beneficial knowledge is that which increases your fear of your Creator. So you'll find the ulama saying, وَشَاوِرْ فِي أَمْرِكَ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ اللَّهِ. If you find people who truly fear Allah, then ask them for advice. Sit with them, get advice from them. You'll get the best advice from those who truly fear Allah, because their hearts are connected to the Akhirah. Their hearts are not connected and drawn, attracted, and plugged into the dunya. It's rooted in spirituality, and you get the best advice from it. So the first thing, says Imam Ghazali, is that the best thing to do is search for beneficial knowledge, and the most beneficial knowledge is that which increases the fear, it increases even fear of your Creator, in awe of your Creator. Number two, beneficial knowledge is that, he says, وَيَزِيدُ فِي بَصِيرَتِكَ بِعُلُومِ نَفْسِكَ. Beneficial knowledge is that which grants the person insight into his own faults. That's beneficial knowledge. A Muslim does not dig out the faults of people, look into the faults, pry into people's lives. A Muslim makes dua and loves even a sinner and asks and has pity and mercy on the sinner, because he's human, and human being, insan in Arabic is nisyan, he used to forget, because human beings make mistakes, and the best of those are those who can forgive those who sin and make mistakes. Because that is of the sunnatullah. The sunnah of Allah is to forgive those who repent. Nabi Adam slipped up and ate from the tree, and is remembered, immortalized in history as someone who returned and repented. And we do not limit our sense of forgiveness and compare that to Allah's forgiveness. Whatever our minds can put together here and sum up this as forgiveness, it's beyond that. Allah's forgiveness is beyond that. If we can come 10,000 strong here and say this is mercy, Allah's mercy outstrips that. It is beyond that. We become shackled by our limitations, and we say that is our likeness. But remember that Allah's sifat of mercy and forgiveness is without end. He forgives whom He so wills, not whom you think should be forgiven, whom I think should be forgiven. And the Prophet indicated that with the prostitute who gave a dog walk, and the symbol is not in a cat, because there was a pious woman who left a cat. Look at the cat and the dog. There's a cat locked up in the house without any water. The cat died, and she is a woman of hell. And a prostitute who gave water to a dog, because she felt sorry for the dog, because we kind of associate dogs as being more filthier than cats. And this lady is given heaven because she felt pity for this dog. So don't ever, we should not underestimate or limit Allah's forgiveness and His mercy to our limitations. And then he says, thirdly, وَيَزِيدُ فِي مَعْرِفَتِكَ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّكَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Beneficial knowledge, number three, thirdly, is that which gives you insight into how to worship Allah properly. And in order to worship properly, you need to know our Creator. That is studying the science of Aqidah and just drowning yourself into the pursuit of knowledge. Because a Muslim is a recipient and a representative of the final message to mankind. We are representatives of that first word, Iqra, read, research, study, pursue knowledge. And the response is Ma'ana Bifari, the Prophet says, I cannot read. A response of utter humility to that command to read. So it's that which increases us in knowledge into how to worship Allah. And we can always increase in ilm. We put the bars on ourselves. We say, done 3 year course, I'm an alim, I'm finished, I'm done studying. That's the limit. You shackle yourself. Because there's no, the ulama would say, for example, of the Azhar would say that, once you get your degree here, after 10 years, we've only given you the tools so that you may study now on your own. You're not a great mufti or a sheikh. You now study. So go away and study. Number 4, وَيُقَلِّلْ مِنْ رَغْبَتِكَ فِي الدُّنْيَا. Beneficial knowledge is that which increases your yearning and your himma and your desire for the akhirah. Meaning your heart becomes more attached to the akhirah and not plugged into the dunya. Number 5, وَيَزِيدُكَ فِي رَغْبَتِكَ. Sorry, that was me. وَيُقَلِّلْ مِنْ رَغْبَتِكَ فِي الدُّنْيا. Your heart becomes less attached to the dunya. So we ought to set milestones. For example, do I have one for next month? And not the milestone where I'm going to be in the next 5 years in the company. That's something we do, it's normal, it's fine, we have to plan. But what is my milestone to increase in spirituality next month? Can I plan that I'm going to try and wake up once a month while everyone is sleeping and make a dua for those who are good and bad? Or like fast once a month? Can I extend my hand more in generosity this month or next month than I do this month? Can I be more kind to people next month? And set milestones so we may become better human beings and increase in our spirituality. And the 5th one was to increase in your yearning for the akhirah. You know, we go through difficulties, we will be tested and tried and lose things here in this dunya. Because we are created only to be tested. So we may so Allah may test us to see لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Those who respond the best to these tests and trials. Because those who respond the best will earn that grace and that bliss and that high level in the Jannah. So he says, وَيَزِيدُكَ فِي رَغْبَتِكَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ. And through all the difficulties and trials that we go through, remember one thing, we don't build for the dunya, we build for the akhirah. So that building that you built here, whatever it may be, it's going to collapse at some times because the material is not meant to last forever. So grieve for it because we are human, but remember that beyond and above all these material things, our hearts ought to be plugged on the akhirah. That's because we are all traveling on one path. We all, one and all, are traveling regardless of our beliefs, are traveling to the akhirah. And we will travel there and take and prepare here for that akhirah. And every step we take here, this very second, we are planting our seeds for that akhirah, for our journey. And depending on how we live here, we'll receive tenfold. Good or bad, depends. We have the choice, the cusp, to acquire what we want here and prepare for that akhirah. ويفتح بصيرتك بآفات أعمالك حتى تتحرز منها. And beneficial knowledge is that which grants us insight into that which spoils our worship. You know, like being arrogant or doing things for show, wanting status and position, and praying now and insulting afterwards, and these blameworthy qualities. And lastly, it says beneficial knowledge is that which grants us insight into the deception of the shaitan, who leads scholars astray. And he says they are ulama as-su, evil scholars. They are deceived by the shaitan, حتى عرضهم لمقت الله عز وجل وسخطه. And they are then the recompenses the wrath of Allah upon them. حيث أكلوا الدنيا بالدين. And what he's saying here, what I mean is that they are deceived because they use the dunya, they eat from this dunya, and it devours the deen, destroys the deen. Acquiring the dunya at the expense of spirituality and the akhirah. That's what he says on beneficial knowledge. Then he basically divides, the crust of this is that he divides knowledge into two real important aspects. Because the question, he's asked a question. Can you map out for us the road of the akhirah in such a manner that it will bring out its outline if an inquiry into its detail is not possible? Can you outline this for us? And he says, yes, I will do that. He then says, فَعْلَمْ know well, أَنَّهُ كِسْمَانِ, knowledge is of two types. علم المكاشفة, the knowledge known as mukashafa, unveiling. وعلم المعاملة, and the knowledge of practical knowledge. Now, mu'amala is in fiqh, this is not what he's talking about. In fiqh, it is the knowledge of nikah and the contracts, buying and selling, and all this practical knowledge which we need to have a decent society and a stable society. Mu'amala, your practical knowledge here, is how do you practically receive that unveiling. So he doesn't speak about unveiling here. He speaks about the practical knowledge of how to get there. But he mentions the following about this mukashafa. He says, فَالْقِسْمُ الْأَوَّلْ عِلْمُ الْمُكَاشَفَةِ is the first knowledge of unveiling. وَعِلْمُ الْبَاطِنِ it is the knowledge of the inner. وَذَلِكَ غَايَةِ الْعُلُومِ and that is the purpose of why we seek knowledge, to receive that unveiling. فَقَدْ قَالَ بَعْضُ الْعَارِفِينَ some of the knowers, the Gnostics said, مَنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ نَصِيبٌ مِنْ هَذَا الْعِلْمِ one who does not acquire a portion of this knowledge, أَخَافُ عَلَيْهِ سُوءَ الْخَاتِمَةِ then for him is feared a bad ending. وَأَدْنَى نَصِيبٌ مِنْهُ التَّصْدِيقِ بِهِ وَتَسْلِيمِهِ لِأَهْلِهِ and the minimum that you can do, the least you can do regarding this knowledge is to leave its adherents and those of this knowledge alone and not insult them and disrupt them and cause their lives to be difficult. And to at least admit that this knowledge exists. And some of them said, مَنْ كَانَ فِي خِصْلَتَانِ whoever has two qualities, لَمْ يَفْتَحْ لَهُ بِشَيْءٍ مِنْ هَذَا الْعِلْمِ he will never taste or have a share in this knowledge. Number one, it is a person of bid'ah, of innovation. And people of innovation are people who really lack ilm. The ulama made, you can't generalize, but to sum up, it's basically people who declare everything as bid'ah. This is bid'ah, that's haram, this is bid'ah, and this is maulid is bid'ah. And gatherings of dhikr is bid'ah, greeting of the salah is bid'ah, everything is bid'ah. Often they're not people of ijaza and sanad and have not sat under traditional scholars, traditional knowledge for long periods. And the characteristics is that it's quick to make people kafir and to look at the faults of others. Where the ulama are different than us. They are humble, they are not quick to judge people. They will never ever say the hukum of kufr on a Muslim. They always hide the faults of people, cover the faults. They speak the best of people. They often sat at the feet of scholars for years in and year out, and they are careful to say haram and halal and kufr and kafir. Basic what we observed over the years. But we can't generalize. That's what I have observed, and I can't be writing anything I'm saying, but it's just an observation. That the ulama are very gentle, very cautious. Especially when uttering kufr and kafir. Because the Prophet said, whoever accuses one of kufr or being a kafir, then beware if you are wrong, because then you will become the kafir. And the safest thing is to do is to keep the tongue quiet. And you see someone saying his kalima, regardless of the enormity of his sin, he is Muslim. And hopefully, we hope the best. You advise ourselves first before advising others. Bid'ah, and number two, kibr is arrogant. And the Prophet defined kibr as batur al-haq, that if the truth is presented, you reject it. You don't have time. It must be me presenting the truth, otherwise it's not the truth. It's arrogance. Wa'amtul nas, and you belittle people. In a group of people, someone tells the truth, you will be littling down to the ground because it must come from you. It's not the truth, you're not worried about the truth, but you're more concerned with you mentioning the truth. It must come from you. That ananiya, it's all about me, and fullness of the self, egotism and ujub, so all of the blameworthy qualities in one. And says Imam Ghazali, whoever has knowledge of various types of knowledge, but has these qualities of bid'ah and kibr, regardless of what amount of knowledge he has, he will not take a portion of this knowledge. And lastly, he says that وَأَقَلُّ عُقُوبَةً مِنْ يَنْكَرُ عَلَى لَا يَذُوقُ مِنْهُ شَيْءٍ the least punishment you will receive by denying that this mukashafa exists is that you won't taste anything of it. And then he says that this knowledge, what it does, it makes manifest and clear various matters, which were once unclear, it becomes as clear as daylight. Until he says that your knowledge of Allah's sifat, His actions, His eternal attributes, are made so clear to the individual. The hikmah fil khalq dunya wal akhirah, the wisdom of the creation of the dunya and the akhirah becomes manifest and clear. وَوَجْهِ تَرْتِيبِ لِلْآخِرَةِ عَلَى الدُّنْيَا, why the akhirah comes after the dunya will make sense and become so clear to the person who has this unveiling. وَمَعْرِفَ بِمَعْنَى نُبُوَّةِ, the meaning of nubuwah will be made manifest and clear. وَالنَّبِي, the meaning of what it is to be a prophet, the meaning of prophethood. وَمَعْنَى الْوَحِي, the meaning of wahi, of revelation, which separates prophets from ordinary human beings, because they receive wahi. And therefore it is so bad adab to ever say that you're overpraising the prophet. How can you ever overpraise the creation which Allah is praised in the Quran? Allah says, Inna Allah, indeed Allah, wal malaika, and the angels, yusalluna ala nabi, they salute the prophet. Can a human being surpass that salutation? Is it possible? You can stand on your head till Qiyamah, you can't come close to the salutations Allah says to His prophet. It's impossible to overpraise the prophet. To understand nubuwah, to understand wahi, to understand what the shaitan is, to understand what the angels are, and why there is hostility between the mankind and the shaitan. These things become manifest and clear to the person whom the veil has been lifted. Now this spiritual, what he is saying here, in his Ihya al-Ulumuddin, reading from the Kitab al-Ilm, what Imam Ghazali is saying here is that this is referred to as tajalli. It is an unveiling, it is a manifestation of the reality of things. But this tajalli, this manifestation does not just happen, it doesn't just happen by any means. Either Allah grants it to you or you work hard for it. And if you work hard for it, you might not get it unless you accept Allah's will, Allah wills it for you. But he lays out a map of how to, a roadmap of how to experience of this tajalli. Maybe a little, maybe a lot. And the following is what he has to say about it. First, he says that there is a mirror, that the heart is like a mirror. There is a mirror over the heart. But this mirror, because of the dunya, becomes soiled and dirty and filled with khaba'ith, with dirt. And as for the ilm of the tariq of the akhirah, the knowledge of the path of the akhirah, it is the ilm bi kayfiyat tasqil hadi al-mir'ah. It is the knowledge of how to polish this mirror, this heart. Hadi al-mir'ah and hadihi al-khaba'ith, from this filth which has soiled this heart, this mirror. التي هي الحجاب عن الله سبحانه وتعالى. And this soil and this dirt acts as a veil between Allah and the heart. وعن معرفة and as a veil of the knowledge صفاته of Allah's attributes وأفعاله and Allah's actions. So he then says that your capacity to polish that heart and that mirror, the extent you are able to polish that heart and that mirror, will be the extent to what the reality reflects into that heart. So the attributes of Allah, that He is merciful, that He is compassionate, that He is forgiving, that all this beauty in this sifat will shine into that heart which is cleansed of that dirt. To the extent that we are able to purify the heart, to that extent all that tajalli reflect, all that sifat reflect. That's what he said. And it is attained by, he says, this is attained وَإِنَّمَا تَصْفِيتِهَا وَتَطْهِيرِهَا بِالْكَفْ عَنِ الشَّهَوَاتِ. It is attained by removing the filth, by purifying the nafs, the lower desires, and by following the prophets upon whom be peace. And if this happens, to the extent that you are able to do this, to that extent will the reality reflect وَلَا سَبِيلَ إِلَيْهِ, there is no path to attain this إِلَّا بِالرِّيَاضَةِ, except by intense discipline. It's hard work and it's discipline to attain this. It takes hard work. Then he says this mirror has there's different possibilities in this mirror. Firstly, the mirror is incomplete. He compares that to a baby whose heart is not yet complete. The mirror is incomplete yet, so it can't reflect the reality. Number two, the person is mature, the heart is mature, it's grown up, the person, but it's compared to a mirror which is now, the first mirror is not yet built complete. It's still halfway built, so it can't reflect the object in front of the mirror. The second mirror is complete, but because of the rust on that mirror, the object cannot reflect. The heart, similarly, if soiled with sin, cannot reflect that nur of the attributes of Allah. Number three, there could be a veil between the mirror and the object, so the object cannot really be reflected in the mirror. And that is a heart that is fanatical about his opinion. He's fanatical about his one thing, about his madhab, he says. He's full of it, so fanatical that he can't see anything else except his way. Or the mirror could be in one direction and the object in the other direction. It can't reflect. So the heart is stuck with beliefs and with no insult or bad intentions to parents, but it's stuck on old traditions and superstitions and things, which when the truth is given to you by logic and clear proofs, you refuse it because our parents said so. For example, don't walk under a ladder at 7 o'clock at night. Or don't put sugar under the tree at this time. Or don't walk under a ladder at that time. Or don't get married at this certain month because the devil will come to you and destroy your marriage. Superstition. The Prophet came to Islam to do away with these superstitions. But holding on to these things, he says it's a veil. You will look in one direction all the time, but you actually the objects in the other. The sifat, the attributes, the nur is that way, but you are looking the other way. Or he says that you are trying to see the back of your neck. So you place a mirror in front of your face, but you only see your face. Then with an attempt to see the nape of your neck, you put the mirror at the back, and still you can't see the object. Here you need a second mirror to reflect off the first mirror, so that you can maybe see the back of the neck. And here he says it's a limitation of knowledge, that you are in a cocoon really a vacuum of knowledge, and you only have this limited amount of knowledge. You need to explore, because there's ulum al-Quran, there's science of the Quran, there's ulum al-Hadith, the science of Hadith, there's usul al-Fiqh, there's tasawwuf, there's all these branches and subjects that we need to study and swim in, so that we may connect the dots. Because the Quran is all about ayah, symbol, and a symbol needs to be unpacked. It's not a linear arrow pointing here beside. There are ayat which need to be unpacked, and an ayah is symbolic. You need to unpack the ayah. So this Quran was revealed to the Bedouins, to those who are masters of making the connection with stars and traveling, not the waves in the ocean that flows. And here, leave off page 1, page 2, 3. But you need to make the connections in a constellation. You need to find the star here in the hadith which relates to that. So you need to really swim in knowledge for year in and year out. Years, spend your life searching for knowledge. And then you can see the back of your neck with the one mirror reflecting on the other mirror. وَهَذِهِ الْعِلْمِ, this knowledge, he says, it is يَرْتَفِعُ الْغِطَاء, when the veil is lifted, until the reality is made so clear that there is no doubt anymore. However, وَهَذِهِ الْعِلْمِ, this knowledge, it is not found in kutub, in books, and it is not spoken by amongst the general people. إِلَّا مَعَهِ, except with those who have this knowledge. It is like if I have a matric qualification in mathematics, and there are people who have 10 years studies in maths from a university. My matric qualification in maths, without being exposed to that further knowledge of mathematics, it's highly impossible, unlikely that I would be able to speak of the knowledge I do not know. So those who have that knowledge, they will speak regarding that knowledge. So it's not something mysterious, he said. He's just making it clear that if you don't have that knowledge, it won't be spoken about. It's spoken by the possessors and the inheritors of that knowledge. And they are the inheritors of the prophetic word. That's all he says about ilm al-mukashaf and ghaib. Then he says, وَأَمَّا الْقِسْمُ الثَّانِي. As for the second type of knowledge, this knowledge lays out the path of how to get to that ilm al-mukashaf. Because they ask him, is it possible in our day for us to attain this knowledge? And he says it is. From experience it is. From those whom we've taken this from, they have experienced the same thing, and their teachers experience the same thing. And if you want to experience some of it, it will depend on how disciplined you are and how purified you are. And the following is the ways of purification. Path. He says it is divided into two. He says this is فَوَعِلْمُ الْأَحْوَالُ الْقَلْبِ. It is the knowledge of the states of the heart. وَأَمَّا مَا يَحْمِلُ مِنْهَا. And they are praiseworthy. There's a praiseworthy and a blameworthy. As for the praiseworthy qualities of the heart, it says it is of them, it is sabr. And sabr is the basis of being a Muslim. Try to have a plan and practices. Think about sabr. With our own wives and our own children and our own husbands, in our home and we live, with people. Test, put yourself in a position so you can test ourselves. We normally get irritated, and especially now Ramadan. See if you can maintain a day without getting upset with small things around you. Someone does something different to the way you want it to be done. Try it, attempt it. And you can smile. Some of you are smiling. For the what now, we all know done. So she does something that makes the tea this way and you like it that way. Try attempt to have sabr and not lose it. You have to test ourselves in this way. And in that way, and above that, the Quran says, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Assist people with sabr who are going through difficulties. Tell them it will be okay, that the dunya is not everlasting. And respond with sabr and you will attain that akhirah. This Ramadan, we are fasting, we are one thing that the ibadah has in common: salah, siyam, hajj, zakah. It's to let go of the dunya. You earn and now you must share zakah. You earn, now you have to spend and go on hajj. We are so busy with the dunya, now we must let go and pray. We eat every day, now we must let go. It's designed to make us people who are detached from this dunya and are attached to the earth. That's one thing that has in common. The siyam, one of the striking symbolism of siyam, of fasting, is that it tells you, this entire year, you were earning, you had good health, you could do what you want, you had status and position. But regardless of who you are and where you come from, know that you can't do without a slice of bread and water for one day. You are all equal in that respect. It brings us down to realize our ubudiyya, our servitude, of who we are as human beings. And by realizing who we are, فَقَدْ عَرَفَ رَبَّهُ, we will get to know who Allah is, who does not need that food and water, who is truly in charge and who is truly rich and wealthy. We are in a state of stark poverty. We only have Allah who gives us. Some of the symbols in this Ramadan. Sabr, wa shukr. Are we grateful for what we have? At this very moment in time, are we grateful for what we have? And do we doubt that we will have it? That we will be left to the dogs, or left to drown and die. After all these years of Allah looking after us, are we grateful for all these years that we have, for this very moment now, for the years we have to get to know Allah? Wal-khawf, and fear. He says fear is a positive quality, to have fear of Allah. Because fear, says Imam Ghazali in his Risala, is a lamp which glows in the heart of the believer, making clear to him or her what is right and what is wrong. If you find someone of fear, then know that he is a person who must stick close to him. Those who fear Allah, stay close to him. They are people of insight, people of hikmah, of wisdom. They are protectors, they are lamps on the way, those who fear Allah. Wa-raja, hope. Are we people of hope? Do we give hope to human beings? Muslims are supposed to be at the forefront of giving hope, of not bringing depression and sadness. I heard Abdul Hakim Murad once say that
when he goes to gatherings, he feels like a stranger because people are stressed and sad. And a Muslim is a person of hope. A Muslim is optimistic. He's always, regardless of the world being blown up, he still has a state of hope, a feeling of hope inside him, because Allah has promised this deen will survive. It is a guarantee this deen will survive. Muslims are those of hope and those who smile and those who give hope to people. And it doesn't matter what religion they come from, Muslims give people hope. We ought to be at the forefront of hope. When people are sick, when they are struggling, when they strive, give hope to people. Don't give people, don't just give people bad news about hellfire and how far you're going to go in pits of Jahannam. You're going to go down. Except for the people who are driving very slow, sometimes you feel that there must be a special place to it. I heard one of the sheikhs say that there must be a special place in Jahannam for people when the robot is green. And they stop at the green robot to give people way to cross, and all the cars are waiting behind them, supposed to drive. For them there's a special place. Just joking. I heard one of the sheikhs say so. I mentioned no, but I didn't say so. Obviously, are we content with our lot, what Allah has granted us, with our husbands and our wives, and what we have in this very moment? Do we feel a state of contentment? Because that is true wealth. That rida and contentment. Radiyallahu anhu wa radu anhu. They are pleased with Allah, and in turn, because of the good pleasure with Allah is decreed for them, Allah is in turn pleased with them. Was zuhud, detachment from this dunya. Not with material wealth. You have to earn, a Muslim must earn as much as he possibly can. Muslims should be of the wealthiest people, but your heart is not attached to that wealth. Your heart is attached to the heart. While qana'ah, contentment or with a little. Do we get angry when we have less, and are we only happy when we have a lot? Was sakha, are we generous with what we have? And again, I've repeated this 10 times and I'll repeat it again. He argues that, Imam Ghazali argues, what benefit is it if we argue about where to take wudu from? On the shins, on our elbows, past our elbows, till the elbows. If I argue with you, 3 hairs must be wet, because according to Shafi, 3 hairs must be wet, minimum of it. Or must half the head be wet? Or must all the hair be wet? Or must I stand with my hands folded in salah? Or can I stand with down? Or if you argue that you must make the kunut, or if you argue that you must say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before the Fatiha, some say you don't. If we argue about these things, he says it drives, it splits up communities. If we are not clued up really on how to present this. He says when you take wudu, rather concentrate on not where you're washing your elbows in the water though, but asking Allah to extend your arm in generosity, to make you of those who are generous. Because generosity is a gift from Allah, which He yields and strikes into the hearts of people. It's a gift from Allah. It's riwayat from Imam Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala. He says, رَأَيْتُ عَلَى بَابْ Malik. I saw at the door of Imam Malik. كَرَاءَ مِنْ أَفْرَاسِ الْخَرَاسَانِ. I saw the fairest and best of Khorsani horses at the door of Imam Malik. And I told Imam Malik, ما رأيت, I have never seen أحسن منه. I have not seen more beautiful standings than what I see at your door, O Malik. فقلت, Imam Malik said to me, فقلت Malik rahimahullah, Imam Malik said, هو هدية مني إليك. This is all these horses I give, O Imam, O Shafi, from me to you. Ya Abdullah, he says, Abdullah. فقلت, and I said, take one for yourself, Umar. At least take one horse for yourself, so that you may ride on this horse, and it may facilitate and make things easy for you. And he says, فقال Imam Malik says, إني أستحي من الله تعالى أن أطع تربة فيها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بحافر دابة. I am too ashamed to ride, to sit on a beast that will separate me from the soil on which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm too shy. So all the horses are for you. and he never rode his horse on the soil of the Prophet. He urinated in the desert. It was of shame to urinate in the soil of the Prophet. These people are the most generous people, and at the same time their hearts are not plugged into this dunya. And of the praiseworthy qualities is to have ihsan, to do the best, to do things with beauty. When you smile at someone, smile, mean that smile. And when you give, do it with beauty. The ulama concentrated and were more worried about the ihsan over the actions. Because you can give someone charity now and they go, you can say he's a scum. Or you can give him charity and then afterwards say and smile at him and really tell him, you know what, this you deserve this because I have more. And you are important because you are a human being. You give something with ihsan, it is more value than just giving it. Because the ihsan will count at the end. Husnul dhan, and to think good of people. Because good thoughts of people allows a society to grow and to flourish. Not to think bad and think that you are better and everyone else is a notch lower down than you. Husnul khulq, and to have good character, good adab. Because knowledge is there to refine character. That's the reason why we pursue knowledge, is to increase in adab, to increase in character. The Prophet was sent to refine character. And not to argue with people and down him. Imam Malik again said, Al-Jidal fi deen laysa bi-shay. He says there is absolutely no point in arguing deen. And he never argued. Imam Shafi said, Inni shahidtu Malikan. I saw Imam Malik, qad su'ila an thamanina arba'ina mas'ala. 48 questions were presented to him. فقال, and he said, في 32 32 of them he said, La adri, I don't know the answer. And when they said, but we send people from all the way from Iraq to ask, in Iran, wherever to ask you questions, and you say you don't know, he said, go back and tell them the great Malik doesn't know. This humility and not, this good, impeccable character. And again Imam Malik says that one whose nafs and his lower desires dominated himself, it will never allow him to say La adri, I don't know. He'll have an answer for every single thing. Therefore Imam Shafi said, إذا ذكر العلماء فمالك النجم الثاقب وما أحد أمن علي من مالك. When Malik is mentioned, the star, the brightest star in the Sama is mentioned. And there is no one that we are more indebted to than Imam Malik. Then says Imam Ghazali that the knowledge of ma'rifah haqa'iq hadhihi al-ahwa, the knowledge of the reality of these states that you can go through, all these good qualities, wa hududuha, and its subject matter, wa asbabiha allati bitattasibu, that the causes to bring these good qualities, to make them alive in your heart, wa thamaratiha, and the fruits that they bring, and its signs, and the remedy if they are weak inside. All these, they constitute the knowledge of the Akhirah, and these qualities are known as tahalli. They are referred to as the adorning qualities. At the beginning we mentioned that there is tajalli, you experience that kashf. But it is only experience depending on what tahalli, adornment or adorning of how much you have adorned your heart. And to the extent that your heart faces the sifat of Allah, and you adorn yourself with the beautiful attributes of Allah, which is a lifelong process. It's an everyday process. To the extent of that tahalli, that adornment, will you experience that tajalli. But it doesn't stop there. He says there are also madmoom, blameworthy qualities, such as khawf al-faqr, fear of poverty. How old are we now? Different ages, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Yeah. How many years has Allah proven to us and guaranteed in our very being here, our experience, that He provides food and water and sustenance for us? And we still fear that He will not provide for us. Imam Ghazali, again in his work, what's the work's name? Minhaj al-Abidin, says that Bazil Bistami, the great wali of Allah, comes to the graveyard, and in the graveyard he meets the man who buries all the people. And he asks him, tell me what you have seen here that is common. And this man says, one thing in common is that all the faces are not turned to the right, none of the faces face the Qibla. They turn the exact opposite way. And he asked him, do you know why? And he asks, Ya Bazi, tell me why. And he says, because most doubted there is from Allah. A handful had tawakkul and were confident that Allah provides them with these sustenance. Because tawakkul is part of the faith of our belief. Therefore, Imam Ghazali, he couples tawakkul and iman in one section. وَسَخَطَ الْقُدُوغَ الْمَقْدُورِ, and unhappiness with what Allah has decreed for us. Are we happy with what He has decreed for us? وَالْحَسَدْ, are we envious of what people have? Someone has something, he's famous, people love him, who has a new car, his wealth. Are we angry with the people because we don't have it? And do we hope they lose it so we may gain it? That's hasad. If you can't stand that Allah blesses people and you want them to lose that. وَطَلَبُ الْعُلُوء, and setting out your life blood is to seek status, high status in society. وَحُبُّ الثَّنَاءِ, and love for praise. وَحُبُّ طُولِ الْبَقَاءِ فِي الدُّنْيَا لِلتَّمَتُّعِ, and love for a long life only to enjoy the pleasures of the dunya. وَالْكِبْرِ, and arrogance. The shaitan was too arrogant to prostrate towards the sacred bread blown into no other place. Are we arrogant towards the next human being who has that same spirit, that divine bread blown into him? Wariya, and to do everything of our ibadah to show, the salah to show, and the more people see you, the more you increase in ibadah. The more you are seen, the bigger the turban, and so on. It's all about dress. Because the very scarf is a symbol to the rest of human beings that I think good of you, that my mind is clean. So what is the point of adorning the scarf and the fez, which are symbols of good thoughts, if you think bad of people who don't have it? Why not think good and make dua and always, and not generalize? And was the initial Muslims, the Sahaba, were they defined by their scarves and their turbans and their tones, how long it was? Did that make them Muslim? And do we rank Muslims on the length of their beards and their tones? Is that Islam? And these blameworthy qualities like ghadab, anger, waqillat al-haya, lack of modesty. Because when we go out in public, we are not representing a little number, we are representing Islam as a whole. Our behavior, our modesty, in public and in private. Waqillat al-rahmah, and being bereft of rahmah, of mercy. The first hadith we hear from our ulama is the hadith of rahmah. And we hear it, the first hadith we request from the ulama is, please read the hadith of rahmah to me. And I'm going to narrate it now, just because I'm almost done. It is the hadith of the awwaliyah, the first hadith we hear. And any shaykh I come across, whether it's in Makkah or wherever I came across, I asked them, and it's a tradition to ask, before you narrate the hadith, please read the hadith of rahmah, of mercy. Because that's the first thing I want to hear before I hear anything else. And we narrated from all our shaykhs. And all of them narrated, most of them from Sayyid Muhammad bin Alawi al-Maliki, who says that in the Masjid al-Nabawi, it was the first hadith he heard from the Shaykh Muhammad Maya al-Sikri al-Husayni. And it's the first hadith he heard from Shaykh Ali bin Zahir al-Bikri al-Maliki. And it's the first hadith he heard from Shaykh Ahmad Manatullah al-Azhari. And it is the first hadith he heard from Shaykh Abdurrahman bin Abdurrahman al-Kuzbari al-Dimashqi. And it's the first hadith he heard from the Shaykh Ibn Budayr al-Maqdisi. I'm reading the chain of transmission just for the barakah and blessings to mention these people's names. And it's the first hadith he heard from the Shaykh Abu Nasr al-Dimyati. And he says it's the first hadith he heard from the Shaykh Ibn Uqayla, from the Shaykh Abu al-Ghani al-Dimyati. And it's the first hadith he heard from the Shaykh Abu al-Amwas al-Rashidi. I missed one name, I know there's a name before Shaykh al-Amwas al-Rashidi, but I'll get back to that name. And it's the first hadith he heard from Shaykh al-Islam Mawlana Zakaria Ansari, who narrates it as the first hadith he heard from Shaykh of Hadith Ibn Hajar Asqalani, from Shaykh Hafid al-Iraqi, from Shaykh Abu al-Fath al-Mayduni, from Shaykh Abu al-Faraj al-Hayrani, from Shaykh Abu al-Faraj ibn al-Jawzi, from the Muaddin of Nishapur, who was Shaykh Abu Sa'id ibn Abi Salih, from his father Abu Salih. It's the chain of transmission. The Shaykh al-Mustad was Abdul Aziz al-Manufi, and he is before Shaykh al-Amwas al-Rashidi, who narrates from Shaykh Zakaria Ansari. So he says, the Muaddin Abu Salih, it's the first hadith he heard from Shaykh Abi Tahir and al-Mahmish, from the Shaykh Yahya bin Bilal al-Bazzar, from Bishr bin Hikam al-Bishr bin Hikam al-Abdi, from Sufyan ibn Uyayna, from Umar bin Dinar, from Qabus, the servant of Abdullah bin Amr al-As, from Abdullah bin Amr al-As radiyallahu anhuma, who said, the first thing I ever heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, before Salah, Hajj, Siyam, before growing your beards, before, and I'll explain to you why you grow your beards, before anything else, the Prophet said, Ar-Rahimun yarhamuhumur Rahman. Only those who show mercy will receive mercy. Irhamu man fil ard. You are ordered as a Muslim, as a human being, to show mercy, pity, compassion, forgiveness to Allah's creation, regardless of who they are. Yarhamukum man fis sama. Then you can expect to be showered with rahmah. That defines a Muslim, and that defined the early generations. They were people of rahmah, they were people of mercy. They were vessels and goblets of light, of mercy and compassion. Wherever they went, they spread light, because the deen is built upon mercy and compassion. Before we drink, we say it in the name of mercy and compassion, Rahman and Rahim. Before you start your car, before you fast, before you do anything. But it just becomes things we verbalize. But they were actual vessels of Rahman and mercy. Because this deen is a deen of mercy. That's what it's about. And these are the qualities of Mahmud, praiseworthy qualities, which we mentioned first. Qillat al-Rahmah is blameworthy, madmoom, because it is you are bereft of the essence of the deen. Now these qualities are the madmoom, blameworthy qualities. And here he says this is takhalli. Takhalli. First we mentioned tajalli, it's the manifestation, the veil is lifted. It happens via a twin process of tahalli, adorning the heart, and tahalli, pouring out of the heart the blameworthy. If you have a bin which is full, which is with filth in, you need to tahalli, remove the filth, and then adorn it tahalli, and then it becomes a vessel of beauty. And he says that the extent that we are able to remove the filth from the heart and adorn it with beauty, to that extent will that heart face the sifat, attributes, the divine attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now he mentions here tahalli first, the tahalli first, adorning before tahalli, which is removing. How can you adorn if you are full with filth? Why does he mention the adornment first and then the removing second? Because logically we have to first remove before we can adorn. But the order doesn't really matter here, because it's a simultaneous process. Because when you remove bukhl or stinginess from your heart, at the same time you have adorned it with generosity. And when you have adorned yourself with rahmah, it means you have removed that stinginess of mercy from you. When you adorn yourself with good thoughts, you have removed bad thoughts. When you adorn yourself with husnul khulq, good character, you have removed blameworthy character. So it's a roadmap, yes. So we may see what's happening, but it happens at the same time. And at the same time, you might experience that tajalli, that polishing of the heart. So all of it happens at once, in other words. It could happen at once, maybe two, maybe three. But he says, depending on how how much your heart faces this mirror, to that extent will you experience that tajalli. Initially, what defined those earlier Muslims? Because in the first 13 years there was no salah, hardly, no hajj, no siyam. There was no zakah instituted. So we salah, we siyam, and we see ourselves as Muslims by practicing these divine commandments. But what made them Muslim? It was this very process of takhalli, of emptying the self from jahiliyyah, from emptying themselves from those vile, dark qualities of being tyrants, of arrogance, of demeaning and belittling women, treating them like dirt, because Islam came to uplift women, that they could inherit, they could be judges, they could be whatever. The Prophet worked for his wife Khadija, they could own businesses. He worked for her, she had her own business, and he worked for her. And that they could be a part of society, because the very word ummah, is mother. We have one mother, and she gives birth to an ummah. And Adam we have one father. In common, human beings have that in common. We have one mother. That's the importance of females in any society. To uplift, to remove the jahili traits, and then to adorn the tahalli with Islam, with the qualities of beauty. They were not building the dunya. Man bana li hadhihi dunya, whoever builds for the dunya, faqad khaba man bana. Whatever he is building will be destroyed. It's guaranteed. Because the people wasn't lost. We build our akhirah. So they focused on two things: takhalli, to remove our jahiliyyah, and we without that purification of that heart, we then bring back the jahili traits into us. And that is dhulm, oppression of the soul and of the self. This is what Ghazali is saying, that from experience there is a process of takhalli, of tahalli, which brings out that tajalli. That's basically the roadmap that he outlines throughout the Ihya, and he expands on each quality. But he says that's the most he can explain. You have to experience it if you want to taste that tajalli. Are there any questions from? What's the time, huh? 12. I think someone said we must hold on as a gift. There's a gift of dates for everyone. So don't go yet. Everyone's going to get the dates. Let's wait till tonight to eat the dates. But it's short days of fasting. Alhamdulillah, may Allah accept all our fast and Allah can do everybody. From the Islamic text, school, Shukran Sheikh Binyamin for Shukran. We'll have classes every week in the fast, except the last week, possibly one of the last week. So our classes will continue for this free. You're most welcome to attend. Stop to be around that. One question.
About having like the himna and longing for the akhirah, longing to be with Allah. Sometimes that's hard to achieve because we're sometimes afraid of meeting Allah. With our states and our things. So how do we overcome that fear to become more hopeful and longing?
Life is challenging. Allah says in the Quran, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتِ, Allah has created death, maut, wal-hayat, and life. Death is mentioned before life. For the very reason that we make a connection with it while we are living. Because we are heading that way. And those who connect with death in this life, they are truly living. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ, death and life has been created so that we may be subjects of that bala. Bala, لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ, subjects of tests and trials. There is no human being, prophet, wali, saint, ordinary human beings like me and some of us, that will go through this dunya without a test and a trial. And those tests and those trials of hardships and difficulty are designed to see whom of us are of that ahsani taqweem, that ahsanu amala. That this ends ahsanu amala, those who are best in their responses to the difficulties, the tests and the trials. So I tell you that if you fear to meet your Lord, then a good, great and a grace has been placed into your heart. Because only a person who has been possibly decreed for a good ending has that fear which you might have in your heart. A person bereft of that fear in that heart, they it's like an empty vessel just doing what you want. They say if you have hope and you don't have fear, then one wing is clipped. So a good amount of fear is good to have. It is a gift from Allah that He places into your heart. So have that fear, but don't let it overcome and wipe away that hope. Because as the ulama say, hope and fear are like two wings of a bird. It's a balance, it allows you to fly. Don't let the one overpower the others. He gives a whole discussion in the Ihya regarding what is better, hope or fear. And it depends on the situation. Certain situations demand that you have an amount of fear, and some demands that you have an amount of hope. But don't make people despair. Don't be a person who spreads despair and sadness and depression. The Prophet smiled all the time. He was upset so little that they could identify the exact times that he was upset. He always had a smile on his face. He always gave people hope. He would narrate things and tell people, there was a man from Bani Israel. He killed 99 men. And when they asked him, is there heaven for me? He killed that very person, and the person said no. So he killed 100 people. And then when they told him there is hope for you, by this scholar traveled to him, he traveled to that scholar. And on his way there, he died halfway. And when the angel of punishment and mercy came, they argued. The angel of punishment said he's mine, the angel of mercy said he's mine. They then decided, let's measure where he is. If he's past the halfway mark to the scholar to ask for repentance, he goes with you to heaven. Else he goes with me to hell. When they measured, he was not halfway there. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah changed space and time so he could be halfway there. Because of the mercy and the rahmah and the hope given to human beings. It's not what I think and what you think. And to end off with your question, there's a hadith which says, I can't get to the Arabic now, but Ana inda zanni abdi bi. I am what my servant thinks of me. Ibn Arabi says, make hope constantly the thought of your Lord. Because the way you think and you perceive Him, you'll meet Allah in that manner. Imam Shafi would say, the great Imam Shafi said, my sins are so heavy, but hope in you outstrips those sins. Imam Ghazali narrates in his Risala countless riwayat of the saints and the awliya who were met in dreams, and they said, they were asked, what happened to you before your Lord? And they said, my sins were so many, I couldn't see anything. But my husnul dhan, my good thoughts of my Lord, destroyed all my sins, and I came to my Lord clean. So I have that balance of fear and hope. And shed a tear out of fear for Allah, and shed a tear out of hope for Allah, and have that balance, and you'll probably, hopefully, be on its straight path. Allah subhanahu. I think one question is enough, because he said whoever answers every single question posed to him has no knowledge at all. And as Imam Malik says, it's good to say we don't know now and then. Is there one more question? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it is written on throne that my mercy outstrips my anger. That is engraved on the throne. My mercy outstrips my anger. I don't know if this time, if I mentioned there were 3 things I wanted to mention for the virtue to recite during Ramadan. Should we carry on to say no one has to cook today, right? And then I'll mention the note here. This was mentioned on Monday by Sheikh Ahmad, so we spoke last night just for a while, and just agreed to mention this again today with a bit more background where it comes from. These are the nasihas, the advices from the ulama of Makkah for this month of Ramadan, and it is from Sheikh Abdul Hamid Quds, who was of the Shafi'iyya. He was a wali of Makkah, of the saints of the Shafi'iyya of Makkah. He was an Azari, he was from the Azhar, He learned primarily from his grandfather, Sheikh Ali bin Abdul Qadir al-Quds, and from his father, Muhammad Ali al-Quds. He also studied under Sheikh Sayyid Ahmad Zain al-Dahlan, the great scholar. He was every single person narrates from Ahmad Dahlan. He's in every single book. He was also the student of Sheikh Umar bin Mahmud al-Shatta, and Sheikh Uthman bin Mahmud Shatta, and Sheikh Bakri Shatta. And Sheikh Bakri Shatta, as we know, was the contemporary of the grandfather of our Sheikh Muhammad Salih. They studied here in Makkah. So where this comes from, Sheikh Amin Quds, and his Sheikh was a contemporary from our Sheikh's Sheikh. Of his students was the great Faqih, the jurist, the Qadi, the judge, the Sheikh Abu Bakr Bab Sayyid. That is a name we heard often from our Sheikhs. We always say that our uncle Sheikh Mahdi always mentioned Sheikh Bakr Bab Sayyid. So the transmission is from our Sheikhs, from the Sheikhs, from Sheikh Bakr Bab Sayyid, who was a Sheikh of Sheikh Amin Quds. He was also of his students was Sayyid Ali bin Abdul Rahman al-Hibshi, who was of the teachers of Sheikh Muhammad Salih. So it's just a bit of the background of where this book, these three advices are transmitted from. So it says the Sheikh Amin Quds, Shafi'i, Faida, the benefit in Qara'a Surah Al-Fath al-Awwal al-Layl, of reading Surah Fath on the first night in Ramadan, fi salah, in your sunnah salah. If you do that, you'll be protected for the entire year, till the next Ramadan. He says, Qala Abu Bakr al-Naysaburi. I narrate to you from Shaykh Abu Bakr, Sami'tu, who says that he heard Muhammad bin Abdul Malik Yaqul, that he said, Sami'tu Yazid bin Harun, that Yazid bin Harun said, Sami'tu al-Mas'udi, that al-Mas'udi said, Ballaghani, it has reached me, Anna man qara'a Surah Al-Fath, whoever reads Surah Al-Fath in his Sunnah Salah, on the first night of Ramadan, in his Sunnah Salah, which is Inna Fatahna Laka Fathan Mubina. It's a surah of 10 pages, it's a surah of 29 ayat. Look, it's a Sunnah Salah, so it's permissible for you to want to hold the Mus'haf, hold it in your hand, you want to put it before you, place it before you, no problem. It's easy to sit during that Salah, because it's not a rukun in the school of Shafi to stand in your Sunnah Salah. You may sit. You may perform your Sunnah Salah, it's permissible in the school of Shafi, at your eating table, while you are driving, while you are sitting on your bed. It's permissible to perform Sunnah Salah sitting. It's better to stand, but it's permissible to sit. If you haven't memorized it, keep it before you read it at least once. It's recommended. This is not the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. These are narrations of the foremost of the walis of the ulama of Makkah. Secondly, he says, and he says that I've seen this with my own eyes in the kitab of the Allama, the scholar of all sciences, Al-Khatib Sharbini, rahimahullah, Imam Sharbini, في تفسير, in his tafsir, آخر Surah Al-Fath, the end of Surah Al-Fath, and Ibn Adil, and he narrates it from Ibn Adil. فأنظره, and I looked in and I saw it. Secondly, he says that I have received from the ulama that they have said that whoever fasts, whoever says, يقول الصائم, the Sa'im who says عند الفطر, at the time of breaking his fast, قبل الغروب, before the sun sets, whoever says the following, and that is to say, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله, I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah. Astaghfirullah, I ask you, O Allah, to turn to me with forgiveness. As'aluka al-Jannah, I ask you for the garden forever. Wa'a'udhu bika min al-nar, and for protection from the fire. 3 times. And then says, Allahumma, O Allah, innaka afuun kareem, O Allah, indeed, you love to forgive. You are so generous in pardon. Tuhibbul af, you love to forgive, to pardon. Fa'fu anni, so forgive me. Once. Whoever says this, Sorry, he says, I've seen the ulama, the notables of the al-afadil, the great scholars. I've seen and witnessed them doing this every day in Ramadan before the sunset. So following, if you will, the greatest of the ulama of Makkah that narrates this. And thirdly and lastly, he says, I narrate to you from the Shaykh al-Allama Sayyid al-Wana'i. Sayyid al-Wana'i was the faqih, the jurist, of the Shafi'iyya, of the Azhar. Sorry, he was of the Azhar. The Arif of Hadith. He was a student of Shaykh Murtada al-Zabidi, who wrote the 10-volume commentary of Imam Ghazali. And he was of the Walis of Medina, sorry, that's correct. And he narrates from Anas bin Malik with a long chain of transmission that it was said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, ما من مسلم يصوم فيقول عند الإفطار. No Muslim fasts, but at the time of breaking his fast says the following. Ya Azim. Azim is one of the sifat, immense, magnified, great, big, great. Ya Azim anta ilahi. Oh Azim, you are my ilah. You are the one I worship, my ilah, my Lord. La ilaha ghayrak. There is no Lord other than you. Irfir ad-dam al-azim. Forgive me, pardon my great sins. فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبِ. For indeed there is no one who can pardon sins, al-azim, great sins, illa al-azim, except the great one. إِلَّا خَرَجَ مِنْ ذُنُوبِهِ كَيَوْمِ الْوُضُوءِ. Except that what happens to this person when he recites this dua, at the time of breaking his fast, his sins are removed from him and he becomes like the day he was born from his mother. As pure as the day he was born. So if you want me to repeat this, just ask me afterwards or get printed out or something for you. That's the gist of what I wanted to mention. That's the advice we got from the Sheikhs, just some clarification on it. From the Sheikhs, from the ulama of Makkah, for what to recite in Ramadan. We make dua that Allah accepts what we read here today. And it was, so I read this as is, it was Abdurrahman's birthday on Thursday. So please make dua for his health. So happy birthday to you. Not too long after your wife's birthday. Happy birthday to you and to everybody who's celebrating birthdays. We don't believe it's a bidah, so happy birthday to everyone around the world. It's your birthday. Happy birthday to everybody. Whoever is sick, my father just came from his first treatment of his cancer and was successful. And whoever is sick from amongst you and has difficulties and whatever sicknesses, may Allah relieve them from the sicknesses and success in their operations. And whoever is studying, may Allah grant you the best in your studies. And if anyone's watching live, whoever is watching, shukran for tuning in and we ask forgiveness if we've said anything off course. If we didn't insult the traffic, people at the robots worldwide, this is the little bit of crying. And for all our mothers and our parents, may Allah keep them healthy and grant us maximum respect to them. And we fast on together with our friends and families. Allah put light in the graves and grant them the highest grace. بسري بسكرة الأسرار وسكرة الفاتحة ولي together أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
اللهم يا رب العالمين يا أول والآخر والظاهر والباطن يا علي يا عظيم يا كريم يا أحد يا صمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيدا. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا عظيما لرب السماوات سبع ورب الأرضين سبع ورب العرش الكريم. اللهم يا ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا ارحم الراحمين وهدنا الى صراط مستقيم. اللهم اجعلنا من اتقاء شهر رمضان واجلنا من النيران وادخلنا الجنه من الليين برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم اجعلنا من عبادك الذاكرين الصالحين سرين كثيرين برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. ربنا تقبل منا تلاوتنا القرآن وأذكارنا يا رب العالمين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله.